Jalin Hyatt is a semifinalist for the Biletnikoff Award. That's given out to the nation's best wide receiver. How close is he to winning this thing? Will it happen? And your questions, all that and more here on this Mailbag edition of Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everybody, welcome into it. Happy Tuesday, and this is Locked On Vols, your go-to Tennessee Volunteers podcast each and every day. It's a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Upside. Download the free Upside app. Use that promo code LOCKED and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That is at Upside. All right, so we're going to talk some Tennessee in some semifinalist award. Jalin Hyatt, also Alex Golesh for the Broyles Award, which is given to the nation's top assistant coach. Those two guys have a very good chance of winning those awards. And yeah, that's kind of what we're going to talk about in segment 1. Segments 2 and 3, it is your time to take over the show. Mailbag edition, Twitter Tuesday, right here on Locked On Vols. All right, so because Tennessee lost and because Tennessee, because wins and losses weigh so heavily in the Heisman Trophy race, that's going to hurt Hendon Hooker, and of course, he's not playing this week. So with Hendon Hooker maybe taking a step back in the Heisman voting race, I thought we'd bring on two other guys who I believe will have really good chances of winning these awards, and that's Jalin Hyatt for the Biletnikoff, and that's Alex Golesh for the Broyles Award. So Jalin Hyatt named on Monday as one of 12 semifinalists for the Biletnikoff Award. If I can find this here. Here we go. Yep. He's one of 12 semifinalists for the Biletnikoff Award. The award is going to be announced. The finals will be announced on Tuesday, November 29th. So that's coming up here next week before the winner is announced on December the 8th. That'll be the Home Depot College Football Award Show. That'll air on ESPN at 8:30 Eastern Time. So Jalin Hyatt is up against these other semifinalists. Jordan Addison of USC. He won it last year while playing at Pitt. Brock Bowers, the tight end at Georgia. Nathaniel Dell at Houston, Josh Downs at North Carolina, Zay Flowers at Boston College, Marvin Harrison Jr., who is his biggest competition for the award, that is at Ohio State, Xavier Hutchinson at Iowa State, Quentin Johnston at TCU, Charlie Jones at Purdue, Rashee Rice at SMU, and Keelan Stokes at Tulsa. If you look at where Jalin Hyatt kind of comes in terms of receiving the leaderboards around the country, well, look up straight at the top. Jalin Hyatt leads the nation with 15 receiving touchdowns. Leads the nation with 15 receiving touchdowns. Now, that's one more than junior wide receiver Nathaniel Dell at Houston. He has 14. He plays at Houston. He has 94 receptions, 14 touchdowns, and on 94 receptions, he has 1,193 yards. Let's put that in comparison now. Jalin Hyatt leads the nation in touchdowns with 15, so he has one more than this cat's Nathaniel Dell. He also has 11 games, but he's only done this in 64 receptions. Jalin Hyatt, 64 receptions, 1,181 yards. That is just, 12 less than the Houston guy, Dell, at 94 reception, 1,193 yards. So, again, some good company there. Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State, he has 65 receptions, so just one more reception above Jalin Hyatt, 1,037 yards and 11 touchdowns. So Hyatt is beating him in receptions, beating him in receiving yards, and beating him in touchdowns. Now, again, I mentioned, Brock Bowers. He's the tight end at Georgia, and he's a guy that is arguably thought of as one of the best players in the country. I can find him here, a little control F. Well, he's not even on here. But Marvin Harrison Jr., Charlie Jones at Purdue, as I mentioned, 11 touchdowns, 1,056 rushing or receiving yards. Rashee Rice of SMU, he's a semifinalist, 9 touchdowns. Tyler Scott, 9 touchdowns. So, I mean, you look at, we can go down here and look up stats until, the segment's over, but Jalin Hyatt leads the nation with 15 receiving touchdowns, one more than Nathaniel Dell, and he's done it primarily on 30 less receptions. So that's really, really impressive there from Jalin Hyatt. So I think as long as Tennessee continues to put up some points here in this last week of the regular season, and I understand you have a backup quarterback in Joe Milton, and the offense might look a little bit different, but I think Jalin Hyatt's in a really good position to win that award. Now, what about the Broyles Award? That is given to the nation's top assistant coach, okay? And for that, Alex Golish has been named a semifinalist. There's quite a few semifinalists in this category. They don't even list them out there. That's so many. But you've got the finalists that'll be announced. 5 finalists for the Broyles Award will be announced next week, November 29th. And the recipient of the award will be announced on December 6th in downtown Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm not sure why they do it there, but nonetheless, that's when that's kind of that timeline. What will give Alex Golish an opportunity to win this award? Well, despite the loss for Tennessee at South Carolina, as we talked about on yesterday's show, Tennessee still put up points offensively, still scored 31 offensive points there in the fourth quarter. And then Joe Milton tacked on another one there late and kind of in mop-up duty when the game was out of reach. But still, Tennessee still leads the nation with 46.5 points per game. Now, Ohio State is at number 2, and they also average 46.5 points per game. Tennessee has scored 67 touchdowns, one less touchdown than Ohio State, but it has kicked more field goals, and it's gone for 1.2 point conversion, whereas Ohio State is not. So, Tennessee's in a really, really good spot there. It's accumulated 512 points on the season. That is one more point higher than Ohio State, who sits at number 2. So just because they, on paper, when you round it to the nearest 10th, they're the same. But if you went to the hundredths, Tennessee would be higher than Ohio State. Excuse me. So you have Alex Golish that leads as the offensive coordinator. He has a big hand in what Josh Heupel does, and he's leading an offense that's number 1 in points per game. Well, what about total offense and yards per game? Tennessee, despite the loss, still put up 507 yards of total offense, still coming in at number 1 in the country, and it's by a long shot. Tennessee leads the nation with 540 yards of total offense per game on average. Second place is Southern Cal, 513 yards of total offense. So there's a lot of wiggle room in there for Tennessee. Tennessee has scored 67 offensive touchdowns. It averaged 7.2 yards per play. It has run 826 plays on the season. The second place recipient, Southern Cal, has run 775 plays on the season. Washington has run 825 plays. You have Ole Miss that's probably ran its offense just a smidge faster than Tennessee this year, has run 839 plays on the season. So again, despite the loss against South Carolina, Tennessee is still in good shape to win some individual awards. The Broyles Award is one of the most coveted awards in all of college football. Again, you see so many current head coaches were former Broyles Award winners, and they get those opportunities. I think Alex Golish is going to get an opportunity maybe as early as this offseason if he wants to accept one that feels right to him. I'm not saying it'll be a major Power 5, but it might be a group of 5. We'll see. He will be a head coach in the very near future. So I think Jalin Hyatt's in good position to win the Biletnikoff, and I think Alex Golish is in great position to win the Broyles Award. And those semifinalists were announced on a Monday afternoon. Questions. What do you guys have? Anything you want to know? It's Tuesdays. It's when you take over the show right here on Locked On Vols. So that is coming up next on the show. But first, I want to remind you guys about one of the proud sponsors of this podcast. It is Upside. Inflation has us all thinking about different ways to cut back, whether it's driving less, dining out less, or buying less from the grocery store. We can all agree there's nothing fun about less. That's when I started using Upside. Upside's an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With Upside, I don't have to cut back because I get cash back on every single purchase. To get started, all you need to do is download the free Upside app, use my promo code LOCKED, and you're going to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, you claim the offer for whatever you're buying on Upside, that app, okay? Check in, like on Facebook, at the business, pay as usual with credit or debit card, and then you get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you earn 3 times more cash back by using Upside. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. Download the free Upside app and use that promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more by using the promo code LOCKED at GetUpside. All right, guys, welcome back into your Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Now, for the last two segments, we get into your questions, your comments, your concerns. There were a plenty following Tennessee's 63-38 loss at South Carolina. So anytime you guys want to ask a question, want me to bring it on the show, just tweet me at _Kaner at Locked On Vols, and we'll get it taken care of every single Tuesday right here on the show. All right, let's go to Orange Crab 42. What would you do differently as a coach or play caller now that Big Joe is in there at quarterback instead of Hendon Hooker? Um, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think the offense might look a little bit different. I mean, Hendon can scan the whole field. Take his time when he's protected, go to his first read, second read, third read, throw or run or whatever. I don't know if Joe can do that. It might be a one read, two read type guy, then throw or take off or whatever. Hendon's the better runner. He is. Joe can run, and Joe's a load, and so that'll be fun to watch. If I'm Joe, I'm just trying to give him, quick intermediate passes to let him build some confidence up, and then I'm going to take some shots. You're not going to be just sitting there hoisting it 60 yards down the field every single pass play. That's just not how it's going to work in a normal game, not in mop-up duties. So I would give him short intermediate passes, let him complete some of those, get his confidence up, build it up a little bit. I would rely heavily on the run game, very much on the run game. You have a backup quarterback in this game. You want to run the crap out of the football this week with Jabari Small and Jalin Hyatt. And Tennessee ran the ball well against South Carolina. You just had to get away from it a little bit because you were trailing so much. So I think the offense will look similar. I don't think it'll look the same, but very much similar. Joe's can run the tempo. He practices every single day. He knows the offense. He ran the offense the first two games last year before exiting with an injury, the first 6 quarters, I guess. So, that's kind of what my take would be on that. Let's go to Kurtz after Florida. Kurt and Trevor wants to know this as well about bowls. After Florida, you discussed on the podcast that the Sugar Bowl was now the floor for Tennessee. Obviously, playoffs become the goal, but a lot of projections now have us in the Cotton Bowl. Do you consider that the same as the Sugar Bowl? And if we make a New Year's Six Bowl, how should fans feel? Yeah, I guess I'd never accounted for Tennessee losing to South Carolina. When you beat Alabama, when you beat LSU on the road like that, I didn't anticipate Tennessee losing to South Carolina. So I guess I spoke too soon. But hey, that's football and that's sports, right? The Sugar Bowl is the class of the bowls you want to be in, the big time bowls, especially if you're from the SEC. I know college football's changed so much. I know bowl seasons changed so much. But, I mean, back in the day, the SEC's got that tie-in, the Big Ten's got that tie-in, and that's what you wanted, right? I mean, that was your national championship back before even the BCS national championship. Sugar Bowl is where you want to be. I don't think the Vols are going to go in the Sugar Bowl because I think the Sugar Bowl will take the highest-ranked SEC team that does not make the college football playoff. Right now, that's going to be Alabama, barring some crazy unforeseen circumstance, right? So I think Alabama will take that one. I like Tennessee in the Orange Bowl. That's kind of where I've seen some projections there. I think the Orange Bowl would be neat. I think the Cotton Bowl would be really, really neat. I mean, Tennessee's in the New Year's Six Bowl game. I mean, that's cool. I mean, that really is cool, and that's something to be proud of. I mean, again, I understand it's disappointment because you had college football playoffs on your mind, and Tennessee just kind of fumbled that away. And so from that aspect, that is disappointing. But again, with a win over Vanderbilt, 10-2 regular season, New Year's Six Bowl game, I mean, that's quite a second year for Josh Heupel for sure. Fans should be not thrilled. Fans should be very appreciative. Fans should be happy about going to a New Year's Six Bowl game. So I think Tennessee will be either the Orange or the Cotton Bowl. The Cotton Bowl, you might have to play the winner of one of the highest ranking group of 5 conference champions, which would not be a whole lot of fun. That'd be like Tulane and maybe UCF. I would want to go to the Orange Bowl. That's just kind of me right now, unless Alabama loses. Tennessee's not going to the Sugar Bowl, and I don't see Alabama losing the Iron Bowl this year for sure. Let's go to Vol Train. Given how poorly he played, all while chirping the entire time, why do you think they continue to play Haddon and let him stay in the game? I think they continue to play him and let him stay in the game is because they had literally no other options. Guys, think about this, okay? Tennessee played 4 cornerbacks the other day. 2 of them went out with injury. Their next man up at the cornerback position was William Wright, a walk-on, or Christian Harrison, a true freshman. Again, William Wright came in the last couple plays at Alabama. It's one of my favorite, byline stories of this football season. Is a walk-on quarterback, and William Wright was on the field for the last couple of snaps against Alabama, in a game where they were driving to win, and where they were going to kick a field goal to tie it up and missed it. So, um, or kicking a field goal to take the lead at that point, excuse me, because Tennessee came down to kick the game winner. So that's why they continue to play Kamal Hadden. They had to. They absolutely had to. I talked about it on yesterday's show. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it right now, but goodness gracious, man, what an embarrassment. What an absolute embarrassment. You're getting your tail whipped as a team. You're getting your tail whipped down the perimeter, and you just get up talking crap. And Shane Beamer, he's kind of a clown. I'm not even going to lie about it. Again, I spoke on this a little bit yesterday, and there's South Carolina fans in here watching the videos and diving in the comment section. Get some. I mean, it is what it is. You pointing over to the sideline all the way out on the numbers. I mean, dude, act like you've been here. Hey, you won the football game. You played well. South Carolina played well the other night. I mean, they earned that win. Good for South Carolina. I didn't see it coming. There's a reason you were a 3-touchdown underdog, but you won the football game. Down your top 2 running backs, Juju McDowell, but Christian Bill Smith and Marshawn Lloyd didn't even play in this game. That's why they went to the Wildcat, and they were able to get some running game going. But Shane Beamer, his antics, I mean, goodness gracious. Like all the off the field stuff and the dancing and the shades, I get that to a certain extent. I really do. It's very much Butch, but I somewhat get that. I really do. I'm not saying it's what I would do. It's cringy. But what he did the other night, that was childish, dude. And from a guy who grew up in a football family, excuse me, as my voice cracks, I mean, that was a little lame. But in terms of Kamal Hadden, they played him because they had to. They had no other options. They really didn't. There's a reason Kamal Hadden hadn't played much over the last month. He's been battling injuries. I get that. But I do think that he was able to play some. And, well, Tennessee just elected not to. So, and that's probably a big reason why. We got a couple more. Let's go to Braden, if I can find it here. Braden wants to know, talk about Jeremy Banks. I talked about that yesterday. What do you expect from the team next year after losing so many key contributors? And how do you feel about Joe Milton going forward? Yeah, we'll see about Joe. I think this is a really great opportunity for him. I think this is kind of a trial run. Again, he had the keys at one point in time last year, lost them. I want to see how much he's improved. I do, because it looks like he's improved in mop-up duty, but I want to see what he looks like when the score is 0-0 and there's 15 minutes on the clock in the first quarter. I want to know how he approaches each drive and each series and all that. So, but yeah, Tennessee's going to lose at least one safety. Tennessee's going to lose one linebacker in Jeremy Banks. Tennessee's going to lose, trying to think up front on the defensive line. I don't think they're going to lose many of those guys. Or Latrell Bumpus will lose him. We'll see if anybody hits the portal up there. And then on offense, you're going to lose Cedric Tillman. You're going to lose Hendon Hooker. You're going to lose, we'll see about Jalin Hyatt. We'll see about Darnell Wright. But you still bring back a lot of guys. I mean, you really do. I sat down and thought about this the other day. I'm like, man, Tennessee's bringing back a whole lot more than I actually thought that they were bringing back, right? Your running backs are coming back. 4 of your 5 starters on the offensive line are Jerome Carvin's leaving. So 3 of your 5 starting offensive linemen will for sure be back, depending on what Darnell Wright decides to do. Still got talent at wide receiver, and Brew McCoy and Ramel Keaton's going to play next year. That's good. Princeton Fant, you lose him. We'll see about Jacob Warren. Yeah, you're losing some. It's football. It's attrition. I mean, that's college sports. I still think Tennessee brings back a lot, and I still think Tennessee will have an opportunity to compete. But again, it's all about the quarterback. We've seen so much in years past, and then compare it to the last 2 years. It's all about the quarterback. What can you get at the quarterback position? That will say a lot. All right, we're going to do 2 more here. We're going to do 1 more here, and then we are going to hit a reset. Let's go to Caleb. Trying to move on from this sadness that was last weekend. I'm looking forward to what we know about the development of our freshman wide receivers outside of Squirrel White. I especially want to know. I want to know and see big things out of Caleb Webb next year, since we share a same name. Caleb spells his, who's writing me and asking this question, with a C. Caleb Webb spells his with a K. Caleb Webb, man, I was jacked up when Tennessee signed him. I think that, again, he's a developmental player. Haven't heard much about him this year. He was a bit banged up during camp. But he's got the tools. He's long, he's lengthy, he's explosive. So haven't heard much about him. I think the spring will be good for him. What I can tell you is they love Chaz Nimrod. They really, really like Chaz Nimrod. He's the one that got banged up in fall camp. Excuse me. If he didn't get banged up in fall camp, I think he would have played early on in that Ball State game and some of that Akron game. And I think some of those touches that went to Jimmy Holiday and Ramel Keaton at the time and Walker Merrill would have went to Chaz Nimrod. They really, really like Chaz Nimrod. They do. And so I think Chaz Nimrod's the guy to look out for to maybe break through, and maybe we'll have an opportunity to maybe replace a guy like Cedric Tillman next year. And of course, the transfer portal could be an option there as well. All right, we got a couple more questions we'll get into when we return right here on Locked on Vols. But first, this episode is brought to you in part by BetOnline. Tennessee opened as a 14-point favorite on the road. That game has gone down to 13.5 points. Of course, large part because Tennessee, is probably losing the starting quarterback in Hendon Hooker. He's not going to play in this football game. But BetOnline, you can get that line, the totals that's sitting at 66.5, all that and more for Tennessee and Vanderbilt. That's at betonline.net, your number one source for sports betting, info, stats, news, and analysis. Get all the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer to esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, like this one right here, you can find those as well at BetOnline. Always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix in. You can head on over to the website today or use that mobile device. Learn about all the latest trends and all the action. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. We got a final segment left here of this Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Josh Ward Wednesday coming up on tomorrow's show. We'll react to the college football playoff rankings, that and a whole lot more. Thursday is Thanksgiving. Hey, I'm so thankful for each and every one of you guys. I really am. I say it in jest right now, but I am super thankful for you guys for supporting the show. As always, by subscribing on YouTube, liking this video on YouTube, filling up those comment sections, and subscribing wherever you find your audio podcast as well, guys. A lot to be thankful for. Let's go to Ben. Twitter Tuesday. Got a couple of things here. I've seen social media rumors about Jeremy Banks, yada yada yada. I spoke on that yesterday. I have nothing more to add about Jeremy Banks. I kind of did that notion on Monday's show. If you're listening now, watching, and you missed that, it's on Monday's show right at the beginning of segment 2. A little timestamp for you. Here we go. Are the rumors true? If so, also, it seems like South Carolina took a similar approach to that of Ball State on offense, as they got the ball out fast. Rattler also seemed to drop back really far. Was their success on offense due to a good scheme from them or a bad scheme from the defense? I think it's a little bit of both. I think Rattler played a hell of a game. I think that they were really smart in incorporating the Wildcat run with a high school quarterback into Kerryon Joyner, because their top 2 running backs were out in Christian Bill Smith and Marshawn Lloyd. That took care of the run game for the most part. Jaheim Bell, of course, added to the run game as well. He had about 80 yards on the ground. But Rattler just played well. And then Tennessee made no adjustments defensively. We're going to get some more coverage questions here in a moment. But, mix something up. Stop giving 12 yards of cushion, Kamal Hadden, and then when they get a first down right in front of you, don't talk crap. It's as simple as that, right? The lack of adjustments from Tennessee's defense coming out of the halftime break was very alarming because, well, there was none. So I do think it's a little bit of both. I think Tennessee did make any adjustments. I think Rattler had a heck of a game. And I think Marcus Satterfield schemed some things up and it did pretty well in that regard. So I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but I think it's just a little bit of everything. Let's go to Claude. Claude next. He says, it's time to look for a new DC and DBs coach, isn't it? Or asking, is it? My style is not to say, fire this coach, fire this coach, fire this coach. I will never be that style. I think it's a little bit different if these guys are paid millions of dollars. So if that was my style, that'd be, I'm right to do that, but that's just not what I do. So there's that. But if you continue to not do your job well statistically, then you got to look around to make some upgrades. And I think you're constantly looking to where you can upgrade your coaching staff, where you can upgrade your roster. So I think that there's going to be some things to think about in the offseason for everything, not just defensive coordinator or secondaries coach or quarterbacks coach or wherever. But some of these performances have not been good. I will say this about Willie Martinez, man. He has coached some dang good football players. He's been the defensive coordinator, I believe, at Georgia. He has coached a lot of good players. He's coached a lot of good schemes. He knows what he is doing. You are playing in large part players that you inherited. I'm not saying that they're bad players, but they're also not their players. So, and points and times, you're playing patchwork, guys. I mean, again, Danico Slaughter is not a cornerback yet. He's playing cornerback out there. Last year, you played linebacker with just 3 linebackers. So I'm not going to say it's time to do any of that, but you are always looking to upgrade your roster and your coaching staff. So I would assume that there will be some decisions and stuff based on that and some things to think about. Let's go to Alan. Alan says, let's see here. Has there ever been a worse loss to be favored by 22 points and to lose by more than that? I mean, Michigan App State comes to mind. That was a huge upset, but that game was decided as the time was running out. That was a field goal. We were absolutely taken to the woodshed this weekend. 100% taken to the woodshed, beat the crap out of back there. I mean, Tennessee got its tail whipped. As far as a betting favorites, I do not think that was the biggest upset. Excuse me. Excuse me. I do not think that was the biggest upset of all time. Guys, I do not smoke cigarettes. I promise. I do not smoke cigarettes. That was not the biggest betting upset of all time. Other big time Tennessee upsets that come to mind: Memphis winning in 96, LSU winning in 01, or whatever year that was. The reason this one stings so bad, again, outside of being a 22-point favorite, is because you screwed the pooch in terms of being a college football playoff team. So for that reason alone, you can put them in the conversation as the worst loss of all time for Tennessee. You can. I'm not going to say it is, but you can certainly do that. Now, would Tennessee have gotten in? I think Tennessee would have gotten in for sure, because I think TCU would have won out, but TCU might not win out. But even if it did, it moves up. I think Ohio State beats Michigan. Michigan slides all the way back, and Tennessee slides in at 4. And by that time they reseeded, Tennessee would be 3 to avoid the rematch with Georgia in the semifinals. I think that's what would happen. Now, is that a guarantee? No, it's not. But because you lost with that on the line, that's definitely a conversation for biggest upset in Tennessee history. But from a betting perspective, that is not the case. All right, we'll continue on. Got about 3 more here that we're going to get in. Let's go to Locked On Vols DM. Our guy Bruce checks in. All right, I'm bummed from the loss at South Carolina. I'm actually worried about Vanderbilt. What scares me is that after this great season, it ending with 3 straight losses. That also makes me highly concerned about next year. I know I should not worry about next year, but the loss to a terrible team. You need to walk me through this, walk me off the ledge. Also, my heart is broken for Hendon. You and me both, man. I think I speak for everybody involved in this podcast today. Heart breaks for Hendon Hooker. Thoughts and prayers for him and his speedy recovery. There's things to be upset about, no doubt. I mean, that loss was awful. Loss was for sure awful. I think you'll get a better understanding about next year after watching Tennessee against Vanderbilt with Joe Milton, the quarterback, on Saturday, because again, he is positioned to be your quarterback next year. I mean, he is. So I think you'll get a better understanding there. I mean, I understand. Even if you win, if you go 9-3 this year, say you lose against Vanderbilt on Saturday, you go 9-3 with wins over Alabama and Florida. Heck yeah, that is a good season. And again, that's still more than what many people, myself included, projected Tennessee to do this year. But that'd be a collapse. That would be a November collapse. That Georgia game was in November, right? So you lose to Georgia, you lose to South Carolina, and you lose to Vanderbilt all in Georgia, all in November after starting the season 8-0. That would be a collapse. That would be losing 3 of the last 4 games. So that's not what you want. If you win on Saturday against Vanderbilt, then you have a 10-win season. Sure, you missed out on the playoffs, but you're going to a New Year's Six bowl game. So I'm with you. I think that the way Vanderbilt's playing right now, and we'll talk more about it as the week goes on, they're playing inspired football. They got a lot on the line. Senior day, bowl eligibility on the line. Going up against Tennessee, you want to show Vanderbilt that, hey, we are here. This is our home field. That's what Vanderbilt's thinking right now. So I think it'll be a good football game. Tennessee could win by 40 if it wants to. But I think it'll be a good football game because I don't know what you're going to get from a defense. I really, really don't. All right. We got 2 more we're going to get into. Austin chimes in, and Austin wants to know, do you think the secondary is a coaching problem? Do you think it's just our guys not being confident, not being athletic enough? Not just the secondary, but in pass coverage in general, the linebackers in pass coverage, just not all the secondary, yada, yada. I just feel like they were killing us in the flats all night. Yeah, okay, linebackers are slow in pass drops, whether it be in the sinks, whether it be getting sideline to sideline. Tennessee got hurt by the lateral run game a little bit. And like I said on Monday, Wesley Walker set the edge numerous times and no one was there to make the play. And that's frustrating. That is very frustrating. And Vanderbilt's going to do that as well because Mike Wright is a guy that you don't need a Wildcat quarterback. He can do that type of stuff with the jet sweeps and the motions and the RPOs and all that type of stuff that a specialty quarterback might need. Not RPOs. Normal quarterback can do that, but still, maybe not Matt Ryan. But you know what I'm saying. Tennessee's linebackers do not drop well in coverage. Tennessee's corners never play up press man. They never play press man. Warren Burrell earlier this season, all last year, you're lining up 7 yards off, and then you're bailing soon. You're giving up the 5-yard hitch. It's nerve wracking, right? I don't get that. I think a little bit of it is coaching because Tennessee's not getting to the quarterback with a 4-man pass rush, and so you have to bring somebody from the second layer, and then you are vulnerable in the back end, so you play zone, and it's just a bad combination. So I do think it's a little bit of coaching, a little bit of a scheme mixed in there because you've got to make adjustments. I would come up, I would press, I would say, hey, I'm gonna, quarterback, you're gonna give stuff up. You're gonna get burnt. It's the nature of the position. Really, all in football, you're gonna lose a play every now and again. Say, hey, I'm already giving up a touchdown every possession. I'm gonna walk up. I'm gonna try to jam at the line of scrimmage. You throw over me. Let's see who wins. Why not try it, right? I mean, Tennessee was getting smoked on every defensive possession in that football game. So that's what I would do. I would play more man. I would press up. I would try to jam at the line of scrimmage instead of just giving 7-yard cushions and then bailing out so late and allowing just the easy stuff underneath, especially on 3rd and 22 or whatever it was. Linebackers, get back. Go to the marker. Safeties, don't go 10 yards past the marker. You play to a marker for a reason, especially when it's 3rd and 22. Oh, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I don't have all the answers. All right. I'm not a coach. I don't try to act like it, but I do think it's a little bit of both. No adjustments were made, and safeties are slow. Cornerbacks are unathletic and not playing with any confidence, i.e. Christian Charles, and linebackers have been horrible in their pass drops all year long. Last question. It is going to go to Jeremy. Couple of guys got beat up in the football game. What are the statuses of the Danico Slaughters, the Brandon Turnages, those type of guys? It's a good question. It's a question that I asked Josh Heupel on Monday. He didn't have any answer. Of course, that's protocol for Tennessee. Not going to tell you anything. They say we'll have to see, later on in the week, get closer to the game day, yada, yada. Brandon Turnage, from conversations I had on Monday, things can change. I wouldn't look to see if Brandon Turnage is out there on Saturday. I think early in the week, it does not look like he's going to play, but we'll see. Brandon Turnage got beat up. Danico Slaughter got beat up a little bit. I know nothing about him right now. I saw Cedric Tillman limping heavily off the field. That's concerning. Brew McCoy, of course, didn't play in the second half. He still had his pads on. It looked like he was trying to maybe get situated where he can come back in, but then he never did. So we'll see about Brew McCoy. I think that's it. I think that's all. And then Jeremy Banks, of course, that's not an injury that kept him out, as we talked about yesterday. But Josh Heupel did say that he anticipates Jeremy Banks having the opportunity to be with them this week. So we will see there. All right. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked on Vols. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out with me each and every day. And thank you so much for getting me in your questions each and every Tuesday right here on Locked on Vols. All right. It's your first listen each and every day. Locked on Vols. You guys know that. For your second listen, Locked on Sports Today. Biggest stories in sports, the take of the day, all that and more. Locked on Sports Today on this app, on YouTube, and of course, wherever you find your podcast. Same time, same place. Let's do it again tomorrow. So we'll do Josh Ward, and we'll talk college football playoff reactions, all that and more coming up on Wednesday's show. We will be on the air. Not on the air. That's not radio. We will do a podcast on Thursday. I'll get one out there for you guys. Don't worry about that. And then, of course, on Friday, breaking down or previewing rather Tennessee and Vanderbilt. All right. That is the weekly schedule, guys. I will see you back here tomorrow on Locked on Vols.